Igbo, okay, politics. We were trying to survive from the war. So we focused on economics and finances and financial advancements. Happened politics. Okay, open and Igbo shop. He made something politically. A group 2020, it became now an existential crisis. Either you are now identifying as IPOP to the point where our elders, again, who could have spoken up, who could speak truth to power, who could have stood behind people like me who have been sharp for 11 years about the impending doom. I use it as negotiating power. There is no time that's all good in one, your partner, where any issue. There's never going to be a time that's going to add your leverage. Biafra can never be a negotiating power for Ndibo. For the mention of Biafra is an act of war. Mentioning Biafra just by anything, it's already an act of war. Because we succeeded, we now said no victor, no vanquished. Then every era, every decade, or didn't make and down, we must bring it up. And we are not bringing it up in a way where we can say, okay, maybe what we are advancing is our political viability, or we want to negotiate politically on anything. I bending walk. It was considered a threat. To the point that most Igbo people who knew the truth could not even come on their platforms to say, we have seen what happened in Osu, we have seen what happened in Akko, we have seen what happened in Achala, Lilu, Okigwe, Olu, and Igbo want to live in denial. And this is what happens when a people forget who they are.
Good news! From anywhere you are in the world, you can now be our guest on BAM. As long as you have an internet connection and a mobile device, you can now be interviewed from our studio anywhere in the world. Contact the numbers on your screen to book a session with us.
Because we have focused so much on the emotional reaction of Biafra. I cheerful I bundi on Ube one na also. I cheerful I bundi in onye jokota 1 year. I cheerful na nandini ne eburu na ihe gbasara Biafra bundi Igbo. All nani during the war ke eburu ndo also na ije Biafra. But the came 1999 till 2025, ebidoro at least 99.9% of the victims of all of these agitations have been Igbo people. If that is not a sign, I can't veered too far from the path. I wouldn't even call it path of righteousness, but path of progress, path of growth. If it is not self-evident from all of those places mentioned, that even abroad, and the diaspora has support to Biafra, all those their American children to go to their village in those communities I mentioned. If that is not an indication of a people who are confused about the reality of what they are facing. And to that, now why would they up? Nigeria is just moving. Fine. Okay, I sit at home for 4 years. That people like me, when I had to move my father to be buried in Nigeria, I had to consider a Monday because there was no flights moving in from America, moving to Lagos, then moving into Owerri. On a Monday, every Monday, I would sit at home. Then, fast forward now to 2025, when we have learned this lesson, or should have learned this lesson, that claim we are as identity. No, the pain. There's no pain. There's no monument you can point to and say this is what we gained from it. But what we have gained shallow graves, skeletons of our brothers and sisters, families who have now been broken from their family members. And those families are too scared to even speak up. And abomination is the reason why I Jekate front and as our elders continued to look in silence, and what an elder can see sitting down, you cannot see from the highest tier, because when the elders sit at home and the goats delivered in captivity, those will still repeat the same thing, and they will still live as if they are in captivity. So when our elders and our red cap chief wearing elders and chiefs and high chiefs and all of these titles sat quietly, it got up to this point where should we as a people be confused about our identity as a people? And this is my question for anyone who's listening to this or who will listen to this at any point in time. Does it make sense to you that in your age now, you now have to question whether you are an Igbo person or a Biafran? Okay, what does Biafra mean? That we must die for it. What can Biafra brought in terms of our unity, in terms of our progress, that we must surrender our sense, surrender our reason, and surrender our lives for it? If we got us Biafra or death. Because of what these truths that are self-evident. It means that something has gone awry. Things have fallen apart, and I don't think the centers can hold if we continue to gloss over it and continue the way we have been going.
Hello, thank you very much. Let's talk about the man, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, MNK. Do you have any relationship with Mazi Nnamdi Kanu in a way? Have you met him? Do you have an encounter with him?
Yeah. I knew him between 2013 and 2014. I had an early interaction with Radio Biafra because he saw the things I was writing on Facebook, and we sparked a friendship from there that led into a relationship. And then at some point in 2014, I went to Nigeria to document the cenotaph that was being built in the honor of those who died in the war. And it was that visit that led to discovery and led to finding out a lot of the things that I later came and shared in that same year about the future of Radio Biafra, the plans that Kanu had, that they were not of good and they were not going to be to the benefit of Igbo people. And I think I have been right.
When you talk about from friendship to relationship, so that you wouldn't be quoted out of context, people are saying that you were his girlfriend or that you guys had something?
Yes, I dated him.
Okay. At least to actually put that.
That time he wouldn't go by name. His name was Kenny then.
You said?
His name was Kenny then, not Nnamdi.
Okay, Kenny.
Kenny.
Okay, Kenny, like Kenneth.
Yeah, but Kenny. Kenny.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, him as a person, what would you say you have against him, or maybe how he went about his operations? Where did he get it wrong? Was there a point in time that he was actually doing it well? Was there any point in time? And at what point ki just Simba nehap wagonegu? Go ahead.
So like I said, by 2012 when the Radio Biafra started, I had no idea about the radio station. So around maybe I think it's probably like around maybe late 2012 or 2013. He had sent me a message on Inbox and asked if I had listened, if I knew about Radio Biafra. Again, Radio Biafra at that time wasn't really popular, so I didn't know about it. So they have news, like news programs, just like this, like 3 hours, 2 hours news program. So I tuned in, and it was literally just talking about the issues going on, like news. Like he would go through newspapers from the dailies, that Igbo people. So at that time, it was Radio Biafra. He was just the director of this online radio station. So when you would tune in, you would see people like this. Chipo Denibo, he would come. He was one of the broadcasters during Radio Biafra. He would come on the radio and tell us stories about the war. Tell us Makukifo. They did a lot of those things.
Wow.
And they also played old songs like by Chimeze,
Osadebe,
and all of those. Oliver, one of my dad's favorite. So and it would just be a couple of hours a day. So at that time, there really was no sign of anything. In fact, by the time I started listening around that early 2013, when you go on the radio, you would just basically like log into a link, and you would just listen to the broadcast. It was like the first podcast. It was like a podcast, and people would call on, and really one of the things that we spoke about a lot was the second generation of Ndigo, like people like me who, grew up here and needed to hear more history about Aligbo. And that's one of the things that attracted me to the platform. By 2014, so he would come to the US, every now and then, and do his shows from here as well, and then visits a lot of people in the diaspora, just basically talking about the radio station. So it was basically a radio station at that point. By 2013, there was a big fundraiser for building a cenotaph. And this cenotaph was going to be funded by people in the diaspora. And at that time, I already had a platform. Like I said, I'm one of the OGs of Facebook.
You are, of course.
Platform that I do now, actually, weirdly enough.
Yeah.
So my platforms, tell my cousins, tell my friends, tell my American friends, donate to this cause. We're going to build a memorial like the ones we have in America. And the Biafra War happened. I mean, we don't have a memorial to represent and remember those who died. So there was a huge fundraising. And that 2014, May 30th, was going to be the ribbon cutting and the launching of this cenotaph. So I went to Nigeria, flew myself to Nigeria. Kenny was already, then he went by Kenny, was already in Nigeria at the time. This cenotaph was going to be built in a place called Uweron. If you're from Enugu, there's a place called Uweron. It sits basically at the center, where if you stood up there, you could see the city, the skyline, and all of that. So it was going to be built here. And I told a lot of my followers that I was going to Nigeria. So they knew about the relationship. It was like, semi-public. So they knew that I was there. So I went to Nigeria to document this process with the cenotaph. At the time, Ndigo abroad were, donating money, and 500,000, 250,000, 150,000. I know Gahon here 2013, 2014. So you know that the money was a little bit hefty then. So that's okay. That's not a good. I still have what 500. That's okay. And now but there are families that died. That ending case silver was 250 and then bronze was 150. So donated money. A lot of people who lost their people donated money. So when I got to Enugu, a couple of I got there. I think I got there maybe a week before the memorial was supposed to be opened. I went to the site, and I see activity there, but I wasn't seeing any cenotaph. I wasn't seeing, for my own failure, I also didn't see any architectural design or any what do they call it? Like when the architects they make a mold and stuff. or they kind of design. I didn't see any design. So was something that was just like one decade. They had pillars and they were a bird that looked like paper mache. And I remember asking that and like, this thing looks very caricature. They said, oh, it was just a move standing for the ribbon cutting, but it will be finished. It will be finished for like 6 months. So we were going to launch it, and people were going to documented the process. And then a couple of days later, there was a call that somebody had got to that place to destroy the system. Now, mind you, I didn't see a cenotaph. What I saw was a pillars, one deck, and that's ugly bird on. And from the time, this was like first week of June.
Echola na ama nwa gị isi. Anana enwero police case. Anana enwero court case. Bịaba na Pine Leaf Estate. Sọsọ fọnwa bụ ife ga-enye nwugi ya. Anaghị abịa igolu edeka mmiri oyi. Ịma nwe issue. Ndị obodo ama nchụghalị gị. Ndị youth ama nchụghalị gị. Pine Leaf Estate.